was supposed to look when it goes to a cold open and we kind of advertise the show. That's what, you know what? That was an unexpected dry run. So that's how it goes, Mr. Randolph.
I thought we was live.
With it. That's why I'm mad with it. With it. With it. That's why I'm mad with it. Straight out the trap with it. Whatever you want, whatever you need, it's on tab, get it. That's why I'm mad with it. That's why I'm mad with it. That's where I'm at. Okay, you chasing clout? Oh no way, your shit turn.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the I'm Get in Trouble podcast with your boy Eddie Liles. Terrance G is in the building.
Skeet.
Lloyd Lee is at work, of course. I guess today though is Mr. Marlon Randolph himself.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? The aging gracefully black man himself, like the salt and pepper king himself. Yo, Randolph, we appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for coming on.
That sounds like some shit you order at a Chinese restaurant. Let me get that salt and pepper aging fish king fish. Like, get that.
The salt and peppered kingfisher, aged slightly.
Yeah.
Yo, so Mr. Randolph, Marlon Randolph, do you like Mr. Randolph, or do we just call you Marlon?
Yeah, you call me Marlon, man. Don't let the gray hair fool you, man. It's hereditary. I'm a young man.
You said what?
Don't let the gray hair fool you. It's hereditary. I'm a young man.
We're gonna act like we didn't hear that. You been like doing comedy for like 20-something years, man.
Like, I don't know.
I've been doing comedy for a long time. Yeah. But see, I guess it depends on what your age is. So I didn't know. Like so if you are,
I'm 30.
Oh, so I get it.
I'm 34.
Okay, I get it.
Eddie, come on, bro. I was about to say.
So you're respectful. So you guys can do I don't care. You can call me Mr. Randolph. It's all good. It doesn't matter. The only thing matters is the content. Goddamn it.
Yo. So you and two other guys put on a podcast. Can you explain y'all podcast and how it came about?
Yeah, we don't want to do it in injustice.
So every Sunday we do a show called Back to the Essence, and Back to the Essence pretty much is a show where we like to talk about. We don't want to be the old guys who sit up and say, get off my lawn. Oh, this is the way shit used to be. I wish guys would do this and do that. We don't want to be those guys, but we definitely want to be able to address that shit without sounding like those old guys. So we bring a lot of the old, some of the original comedians on the show. And I just think it's important, man, that we address these things because we're not the only ones that's doing that. You know, Faison, Pierre, Cat Williams, Mike Epps, the list goes on where guys are just saying, hey, man, when we developed 5 minutes of stand-up comedy, we had to get a tight 5. Then we got a tight 10. When we went out and did sketches, we had to write them ourselves. Let's do things different. So the Instagram battle is a little struggle for a lot of guys to see how people are just trying to be famous without putting the work in. You understand?
Ooh.
So that's what Back to the Essence is. It's, do you have your 100,000 hours in work yet? That still stands the test of time. That's what that means.
I've heard you talk about this before. I've heard you talk about this before a little bit, and I don't disagree at all. But I do think that, I think revisionist history plays a part in all our heads, right? There were some people who made it through before they were ready, even back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about Deion Cole. Now, Deion Cole right now is a monster, but he himself talked about how he only was doing it for 6 months, and then, you know what I'm saying, got pushed through on the Def Comedy Jam. So, it happens, but do you think, this whole day and age is about comics that just want to be popcorn comics at this point?
First of all, I didn't say that. I think what you did was you cut me off and you thought you knew what I was going to say. But you got to understand something, that it's like when you talk to a white person about racism, right? And they go, hey, I'm not racist. And then they start to break down, I'm not racist because X, Y, and Z. But I do support Trump, right? Because I support him because of my taxes, or I support him because we stick on to these little things. But anytime you listen to a dude who his first speech is Mexicans are drug dealers and rapers, then you can't detach the 10%. You either agree with what he's saying or you don't. So that's what you just did. I'm gonna tell you why.
How you feel that? All right, go ahead. You just put me in with a Trump supporter. All right, but all right, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go. Go ahead.
No, that's not what I did. You worse than my baby mama. I did not do that. What I said.
I'm telling you, Marlon, he is like a Skip Bayless over here. I don't know what he does. He's always the victim. He always twisting words like it's a damn corkscrew, and I don't understand it.
Yes, he would be a great horrible lawyer because he is definitely misruling what I said. What I said is guys who get 100,000 hours in it, they are great at what they do. I didn't say that you can't skip certain lanes because let's be honest. Bernie Mac, I'll give you a better example. You brought up Deion Cole. I'll give you I'm not gonna say a better one, but here's one that I think that touches what we're saying. Bernie Mac had probably been doing it before he did Def Jam. He had probably, I think, I'm say allegedly 30 years, and then he got Def Jam. Right. Then you had a guy like Chris Tucker, who was maybe 16 years old, and ended up being a movie star way before Bernie Mac ever did a movie. So we have to look at something like that and say, is that the same thing? Well, yes and no. Chris Tucker, Def Jam set only came from him grinding and working hard in clubs across the country. So the same recipe to make the chicken, you can't cheat it with an air fryer. It's not going to taste the same. Chris Tucker wasn't using the air fryer. He was using the iron skillet, the same way Bernie Mac was using the iron skillet. And that's what you have. Deion Cole used the iron skillet. So I think what you have is a lot of guys now, they're looking at your air fryer, your wings done in 8 minutes. That's fucking impossible. Those are not real wings. Now, it doesn't mean the person is right, whoever came up with that shit. And then younger people are looking at them saying, hey, you're just a hater, you're bitter, this, and that. But look, when you look, I'm 49, right? You say you 30. Me and you both know if I go, my girl, my girl, my girl, you and I both know who the fuck sing that song.
Right.
Me and you also know who the fuck wrote that song. Right. I know who wrote it. Do you know who wrote it? I'm going to test you. Who wrote it?
Smokey Robinson, right?
Good job. Now, do you think that was a song that was Temptation's first song made in like the early 60s? Before I was born, way before probably before your daddy was born. Now, do you?
Nah, my daddy older. It's all good.
Okay, your daddy was born in the 60s. Your daddy was born in the 60s.
Yeah, my pops 68.
68. So if he's 68, so he was born in if my math correct, he was born in 53. All right. So he was a young man when that song was created. So at the end of the day, that means your dad, he's the same age as my mom. My mom's 67. So 3 generations know my girl, no Smokey Robinson wrote it. Do you think, and keep it 100, do you think 50 years from now, there's a song that's out right now that 3 generations are going to identify to play and know in the elevator and see California Raisin singing that same damn song because it doesn't have that same substance?
I don't know.
I see what you're saying. I don't know. I think there's a few, but I get what you're saying.
No, I don't know, Marlon, because I think will age really, really well.
My Lord Jesus Christ.
Like,
what song? Hold on, Eddie. Pause. Staff meeting. What song are you talking about? What song?
Damn. Now you got me on that one. But you know the one that goes, that's like 50 of them.
A mask off, nigga.
Oh, you talking about a Birdman song? Are you done? Are you finished? Are you done or are you finished?
I'm in the kitchen wrist, you know.
No.
So okay.
Let me say this real quick. Take Terrance and Eddie Liles. Let me say this because y'all explain to me what kind of show it is. I want to be very clear. I'm a huge supporter of there's nothing new under the sun. Things are just done differently. If people are being talented by getting up early in the morning, putting up a ring light, calling a crew, buying 4 iPhones, setting them up, writing a sketch, and the shit is getting likes and views, that is no different than you being on Living Color. That's no different than having a popular show like Marlon. So I'm down with that. The part that I may slightly on the fence with is I still think that stage time as a stand-up comedy makes you a fucking monster. Right. And I think that you can't substitute stage time with Instagram time. You can't.
So is that your rub then, Marlon? Because that's where it seems like to me, after having listened, your rub is the comics that only do the IG and consider they're funny to be enough to pack out the show or to even call themselves a comedian. Is that kind of...
Well, you got to help me with the slang first. What the fuck is rub? Only time I know rub is when you put it on chicken. What is rub?
Like the
like you saying
like
that's my beef?
What's chapping your ass? That's the white trash way of saying it.
No, none of that shit. None of that shit taps my ass. That sounds really porno. None of that shit taps my ass. You went from rubbing to tapping ass in the same sentence. None of that.
Without missing a beat. Without missing a beat. That nigga just
my shirt says it all. I am 98% chimp, y'all. I'm dumb as fuck. I am white trash. I will never deny this.
What's the rub? Nah, what tapped your ass?
Taps like tap stick.
Let me keep it a bug with you. I don't have a problem with any of it. It just came up because I think that's a narrative Eddie was trying to paint, and that's why I stopped.
So all right. So this is the thing, right? You did a little bit because I thought we were talking about. I thought we were on the same page. It wasn't like I was attacking you. That's why I shut the fuck up and let you talk. And it's I like debating. So like
We're
it's like I gotta let you get your shit out before I say it.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? No. But it's not really a debate because I think I agree with you on most of the stuff that you said. Basically, almost everything you said. After clarifying, after me letting you talk, right? Everybody knows this that watch the podcast. Anybody that deals with me when I put on shows or anything like that, I don't deal with Instagram comics. I don't like dealing with them, right? I'll deal with comedians, stage comedians that also do Instagram.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? Like that, because I look at it two different. It's like we had every bracket of comedy or every group of comedy, age group of comedy has comedians that do acting so that they can do more comedy and actors who do comedy. You know what I'm saying? Like, because like they just trying to fill in their free time or they trying to be bigger so they can get more acting roles.
Can I tell you from my experience? I try not to analyze it too much.
Yeah. Well, you say you don't?
I said try not to analyze it too much.
Why not?
I don't analyze it that much. I'm gonna tell you why. Because when I first started, that's something that I remember that a lot of us comics used to do. We used to try to put people in categories. If you was if you were Dan Aykroyd or John Belushi, who were absolutely funny, but they're from a Second City world. So what people did was categorize them because they're a Saturday Night Live type of funny from the stand-up. And I think that's a real dangerous thing to do because you do have comedic actors, and then you have stand-up comics. All stand-up comics are not great comedic actors, and they definitely are good actors. But trained, skilled comedic actors like a Peele. What's the guy named Kill and Peele? The guy
Jordan Peele.
Now, one of them directed me. Where's my picture? One of them was in Detroit. I was in a play called Big Mama's Wedding. It was a black version of Tony and Tina's Wedding. Michael was my director in Detroit. He had cast me and chose me for the role as Chives, the gay hairdresser. So to see, even back then, he was sharp with his improv, right? So I learned a lot from him. And to do the skills, everybody would get in a circle and toss the ball and create, and you have a subject, and everybody ride that subject, and you can't drop it. You can't drop it. You can't drop it. You can't drop the subject simultaneously to keep you sharp. Skills like that, man, it's unfair to not give them what they deserve because they're not going on stage doing setup, premises, and punchlines. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you put the guys who are great with the setup, premises, punchline, with the comedic answers, comic actors, you're going to get a great movie. And that's why you see a lot of those guys, Michael and them. That's why do you think Eddie Murphy hires him for everything? You see him do stand-up, but the guy is fucking brilliant with fucking funny. Michael is.
I do. You just open my eyes up to something because I get in arguments all the time about the mainstream urban conversation.
That's different. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's a whole different conversation. So if you want to have that conversation, make sure we wrap the other one up. Staff me.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was two different conversations. Until you just said what you said, and then I thought they kind of blended together. But all right, we can have that conversation. I don't like. Okay, I love stand up, right? I love stand up. I love fucking stand up. I eat stand up. I dream stand up. I go out and seek stand up. Right? Yeah. I don't do all that, but
That's what you're doing right now. You're giving yourself one hell of a blowjob. But keep going.
No, I'm just saying. I don't like how no, I just don't like how people. I don't like how people misuse stand up. Right? It's too many stand up comedians out here who are trying to be funny and build audiences for being funny, and then they get put into a place or put into a position where it's like now you have to be an actor because so many actors started doing stand up. So now everybody's like, "Oh, you're not a stand up because I don't know who you are." It's like, hold on, what? How many stand up comedians are there in the world? Let's like, you know what I'm saying? It's not on a grand scheme of things. It's not a lot of us, but it's a lot of us, right? If you go to headliners, it's really like it's not a lot of headliners, even in America, that's making a living. So then when you boil it down to only the people that's on TV are really headliners, that's kind of fucked up because now you run into the situation where these motherfuckers are taking people's jobs or taking stage time from motherfuckers just because they was on fucking Insecure. That doesn't make you a fucking comedian, bro. Like that's all I'm saying. Like you can be if you because you're not a stand-up comedian. Like
okay, let's pause for a second. Why do you care?
Go ahead. Because it's still it makes everything harder for everybody else.
Oh, it does.
I don't fuck with that,
man. This is
I work, so I'm good. But it's still the point.
Hold on, Eddie. Let me share something with you. Comedy is a one-man sport. Do you agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Why do you disagree?
I think when I'm on stage, me writing and being on stage is a one-man sport. Well, no, actually, me being on stage is a one-man sport.
And
but everything else is a community.
No. Stand-up comedy is a one-man sport. Well, I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. When you're on that stage only, there is no band.
Right.
There's no background singers. There's nobody who can make your show go bad but you.
Right.
There's no person that can make your show good but you. If your intake mentally is what other people are saying about a one-man sport, you're never going to win the Super Bowl. That's not how it works. All those people who have all these different ideas, and this reminds me when you're like, I don't want to say new in the game, but when you just don't have your hours, because you're analyzing almost a space or a lane that makes sense, and that's not how life is. It doesn't work like that with no sport. Darnell Rollins could probably tell you that, being Ashley Larry, no way he would probably tell you that he's in the position he's in today. When I first met him and moved here in New York, and when it's no way that I'm sure Richard Pryor, when he first moved to LA, there's no way he knew he was going to be a big movie star, but he still didn't accomplish what Flip Wilson did, and Flip Wilson didn't accomplish what he did.
Right.
You know, so you have to be the best you and sell the best you. That's the only thing that matters.
I agree with you on that.
But
I'm not saying like when you say hold on 1 second, sorry, just so I don't get misconstrued out of my statement. When you bring up people like Richard Pryor, Darnell Rollins, you know what I'm saying? Those people, even let's say D.L. Hughley, who was also in those people worked at stand up. You get what I'm saying? They use TV.
I want to stay focused.
Right.
I want to stay focused because I brought those names up. You're getting ready to derail.
No, I'm not. I'm using those as we
were talking about one man sport. We get derailed.
Because we were talking about one man sport because we were saying that I like stand up.
You ever seen Mike Epps perform with somebody on stage?
No, I'm with you on this part. I'm with you on this part.
Okay,
I
so
think this is right now. This is what's the word? Well, we're both saying the same thing, but in our own language, right? Like you know how like everybody talks the same words, but
so let's get past it. I said that it's a one man sport, and you said we're saying the same thing. So let's get past it. So if it's a one man sport, why would the Brooklyn Nets take any advice from the Toronto Raptors?
See, but okay, so
but I would think, Marlon, if I may interject, I would think
interject.
for me, I think what Eddie's trying to say is, as a younger comic, I think nowadays we look at it compartmentalizing it. Whereas saying the lesson from you and your generation, and please don't take that disrespectfully because I don't mean it that way, but you and your generation that passed the wisdom, I do believe it was very much you have to just get your 10,000 hours. But the scene was much smaller then. No. And I think nowadays with the because we've had the shrinkage that happened in the boom in the 90s, I believe, right? And then it's kind of done a little bit of the ebbing and flowing. I think we're back at another boom. It's one of those things that from our perspective, it does seem like on stage, yes, you cannot deny it. It's a boxing match, period, point blank.
No, it's not.
But
no.
I wouldn't even say
it's analogous.
You can use any analogy, but I'm saying like it's
but at
like,
the end of the day, you still have your corner coach. You still have the water boy that's helping you out in some aspect.
Who is your? Let me tell you, you can have all the people in the world that's your coach, and when you get in that ring, man, it's still up to you.
Oh, facts.
No,
I'm not disagreeing there.
We agree with you on that part.
Disagreeing there.
Yeah, I think the stage part that I agree with you on stage. Yes. When we talk about on stage, one man. But even in one man, when you train, you don't train by yourself. No boxer trains by itself. No tennis player trains by themselves. You have to train with a team.
This is the difference. This is a great microcosm of the disconnect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stand-up comedy is a one-man sport. You can say I have my buddies who back in the day there was other terms for it. I got my secretary, my manager, my assistant. That Hollywood dumb shit, right? So you can create all that all day. At the end of the day, when you're on that stage, your delivery and who you are is the only thing gonna make them people laugh, and nobody can help you with that. You the only one by getting your hours on stage can perfect timing and delivery. Only you can perfect that.
Right. But no. So I think that only you can execute that. I don't think only you can perfect that. I think that's two different joints. Now I could be on the technical side of shit.
I will agree with the execute, just so we're not playing with semantics. So we're not playing with work.
That's the word. With semantics. God damn it.
I think we're stuck with semantics. I think we're stuck with semantics when we talk about this particular subject. And honestly, because you kind of agree, but I think you're pulling hairs by adding there's these different people in your circle that helps you, and I understand that. But I can tell you, bro, when you get on that stage, let's just say there's a fucking Jack Daniels competition. You got all these people helping you. I'm telling you right now, if your ass ain't getting up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you ain't practicing your delivery, I don't give a fuck how many jokes you wrote. I don't give a fuck how much money you spent to go to LA to hang at Chocolate Sundays and then go to New York to hang at this place. If you ain't go on stage at Chocolate Sundays, if you ain't go on stage at Boston, New York, if you ain't get on stage at Carolina, I don't give a fuck if you know all these phone numbers. You talk to Chappelle, I talk to Chris Tucker, I talk to Chris Spencer. You impressing everybody, all these fucking people you call and know. If your black ass ain't getting on that stage, no matter what, all that little you got, your ass gonna sound like a new comic. Your delivery gonna be fucked up. Right. And you start saying shit like, "Man, it's crazy out there, man. What's up, y'all? Right. Ladies, make some noise." because you personally did not put the work in.
And that's why I told you. I think
so. Essentially, what you're saying, Marlon, is you, despite the team thing, it comes down to you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Facts.
So it's the semantics of it.
It's the semantics.
That's my point. Like, but okay. But I do agree with your point. Just to drop the subject, because I don't like going back and forth too much. But I do like conversation, right? Like, not to go too much back and forth. I do understand your point of not caring about who's a comedic actor versus a comedian and all that. I do understand your point. Right. I do understand your point on that. But it is a lot harder, and I think because like, just being honest, you 20 plus in. I'm just hitting 10. So it's like now, like, and me and Terrance have had this conversation with people that we had on the podcast. When we get people that's like, oh, they didn't like my style, so people wasn't booking me, so I did this. Or people, and I'm like, yo, like, you sound like a new comic, bro.
You want to hear something weird, man?
So it's great to see a new age.
You want to hear something weird? When I had got 10 years in the game, I remember that I was really bitter towards the older comics because I felt like they owed me something. Let me give you a prime example. I do these interviews for Rashawn, and then you got T. Gray and all these guys.
Yes.
I agree, but I don't know what they set me up with. So I didn't know y'all was comics.
Right.
When I agreed to do a thing with T. Gray, I didn't know that they was comics. And so now I know you comics, and then when I learn where you at in the game, I already know what you're gonna say before you say it. That's how long I've been around this shit. So what ends up happening is an argument or debate take place that should never take place. Not that I know everything, but Chris Rock said it best. He said when he started in comedy, he could never approach Bill Cosby. So you a lot of comics who they are able to approach comics who they're not supposed to, and then they get mad when those comics don't tell them the shit they want to hear. So as I'm listening to you, that's what I'm getting from you. So you're exactly where you're supposed to be at 10 years with your frustration, but you're going to learn and you're going to see that in the real world, nobody knows shit. Outside of the comedy world, what I'm doing right now, people get paid for it. They're called consulting firms. Right. People who need guidance in their career, they just opened up a business. So first thing they do is go pay a consulting firm to help them because the consulting firm has experience. My experience helps you, and you help me as well. But it's one of those things where
I get more from you than you get from me.
Yeah, I hate to say it like that because I think everybody learns.
That's the truth.
No, I'm a straightforward. We're real. I was gonna say
straight up. Yeah.
But my resume, I haven't done the TV like some of my comrades. My comedy career is a little different. I did Who Got Jokes, and that was it. I don't have no big YouTube. This is that. I did BT Come to the Stage, and then I moved from Detroit to New York. And what I've learned is when you out there in the game, man, you gotta really ask yourself when you in this business, man, what are you in it for? Because you can end up chasing shit, man, that's never gonna come. So you gotta ask yourself, what do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy the journey? And are you living? Because if you're not living, when I mean living, if you're not like having kids, building families, and really doing stuff, and you're just focused on comedy, it doesn't work like that. There's a Kevin Hart situation once every 10, 15, 20 years. Last time I saw something like that was when Chris Tucker was discovered by Ice Cube. So when you got a bunch of black men who are the unemployment is over 50% in America, and they dab into comedy, then then the next thing you know, they're like, oh, I think I can do that shit. And next thing you know, they telling everybody, you know what, I'm gonna try this comedy thing. And that's how the shit starts. So it becomes a new employment fucking office for black men to stay afloat, and that's cool. So then dudes who never told a joke in their life, they've learned to be funny by watching cats like me. Then they get it mad from the cats like us, and sometimes they surpass us, and they never look back and pull some of us with them. And I've seen this over and over and over. So I don't trip. You feel me? I know one thing when I go on stage, and I ain't trying to give myself no blowjob, man, let me tell you, I have a good time. And if I'm having a good time, the people enjoy that ride with me, and that's all that matters. I don't see nothing else in the room. I don't focus on the comics before me. I don't focus on what's going to happen after me, because my experience where I was born, where my education at, and my experiences with my kids and how I live and where I'm from and where I was born, nobody else in this room got that. So there's no way I'm in competition with nobody else but the mirror. That's how that works, bro. That's why when you said a boxing match, no, the only person that's in your way is you. You're boxing yourself. That's the only person you're boxing, because your story, Eddie, nobody else has. When you pick up your iPhone, before they did the face shit, they had the fingerprint, right? Nobody thumb can get in your fucking iPhone but whose? Eddie's. That's it.
Right.
That's that same shit like comedy. But if you're too busy sharing that iPhone with 100 fingers, that's too much misinformation, bro, in your head. You don't want to run through the world like that.
Wow, that was deep. Listen, I listened to the OGs. Like that's what I was. I wasn't even trying to argue with you. I was just trying to clarify my point. And now I'm just like, nah. Let me shut the fuck up again. Let me let this thing go.
It's really all I could do. It's really all I could do.
I mean, because that's what I mean. Like as young comics, right? And like me being again 10 years. So it's like I have these conversations with comics. It's like 2 years in, and I'm like, listen. All my OGs, literally talk to me straight up, just like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, look, little nigga, I'm not doing this stupid shit, and I'm not having this stupid ass conversation with you because you don't have enough knowledge for me to explain it correctly. So I get, like, you know what I'm saying? That's why I say I get what you're saying. What do you like? But
I don't know if you should be like that with them, like, because you see how I'm doing the show, right?
Yeah, no. I'm saying like not like, and not in the sense of like, don't talk to me, little nigga. Not like that. I'm saying like, if I say certain stuff, like
they don't listen. They're not gonna listen.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
I was gonna say, like, that's been my thing, right? Like, that was one thing that pissed me off in my time in the military, and everything that kind of solidified my push towards comedy. That was kind of my whole thing. Was I'm not that person that's gonna sit around and say, "This is the way it's always been done." Okay, I guess we're just doing it. If shit's fucked up, it's fucked up. I'm going to try and fix it. And I very much try to take that approach that I'm going to give you my lessons. They may not be the right lessons, but they're the lessons I learned. They may not even work for you, but I'm going to try and pass it on. But you do get a lot of these younger cats that are like, yeah, fuck that. And then after they just ask it, you're like,
right.
See, I remember when I started, the first thing I did is I needed guidance. So what you do is you start looking at other people's paths and you say, okay, if I do it like that, then I'm gonna be successful. So I'm not gonna listen to this guy. I'm not gonna go that way. You do these things, and it's important not to do it, but you do it anyway because you just want guidance. Right. But the only thing really gonna help you, I'm gonna tell you, man. Let me tell you, when I started comedy, it was 1995 in Detroit. And I was working at a comedy club called All Joe Society in Detroit, Michigan. The owner was paying me $5 to seat people at the door. I was one of those guys. I never wanted to be stand-up comedy. I wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to be a rapper. I had put out 2 albums. I'm not from the streets. All my raps were corny as fuck. They never went anywhere. But I'm from that era where that's where I saw success. It was either rap or fucking learn how to play basketball or sell drugs. Wasn't no in between. That's what it was if you was a young boy in the 80s, in the 90s. So when Def Comedy Jam came on board, what it did was it created something to now young black boys that they never thought was possible because it had an edge to it. Because before Def Jam, the only time you saw jokes with the Lenny Bruces and with the George Carlins and Richard Pryors was, or even Bill Cosby, or even, you just watched this Showtime documentary about Dick Gregory, and he's telling jokes at the civil rights movement in the church. Martin Luther King literally is sitting behind him, cracking up, and he's telling the jokes in a church while there's terrorists outside the church. And Dick Gregory was the very first black guy to even play Hugh Hefner's club, Playboy, and sit on the couch for late night talk shows. So there was not this stand-up comedy world as of today. Then Def Jam comes in, and here we got a DJ. You got Marlon Lawrence, just looks so natural at it. Funny as fuck. Just looks so natural. Mm-hmm. And what it started making everybody do, man, is just say, I can do that. And you had a bunch of guys who were already following the Richard Pryor's and Eddie Murphys of the world, the Steve Harveys, the Tommy Chons, the Mike Bonners, and the Bernie Macs of the world, the Chris Rocks of the world. Def Jam didn't influence them. They were doing stand-up at 3-4 years old.
Right.
So it happened, this vehicle came around that was perfect for them so the world could see them. That was their Instagram of their time. Mm. So I'm sure the Bill Cosbys and Richard Pryors looked at that Def Jam and go, what the fuck is this shit? A DJ? This profanity? The way people laughing? Ain't no career in this shit. They downplayed it probably. They talked down on it probably the same way guys do Instagram comedy, which is why I don't do it. Because I am 100% sure that when hip hop came around, the only people that was, if you talk about how the bands in the 60s was taking over, and then you talk about all the bands in the 80s, the Gap Band, the SOS Band, Atlantic Star, Isley Brothers, these guys were dominating the charts. And then all of a sudden you get these 15-year-old kids that's wearing sneakers with fucking jeans, a leather blazer, a hat with a Adidas jacket inside the blazer, talking about ha 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 ha. You don't think those SOS bands and all them do them rappers from back in the days, Russell Simmons tell the stories of how those guys hated them so bad They wouldn't let music play. They would go to DJs and tell them, don't play that shit. They would make sure. And then when they started scratching, then dudes who play instruments started losing jobs. Then the synthesizer was created, which is a keyboard that plays drums and plays different. So now in a studio where you have violins, trumpets, trombones, drums, now all these niggas unemployed because of a machine. And then when the goddamn drum machine came out, it was a wrap.
Right.
And what did those old dudes say? That shit ain't gonna last. But guess what? That's all that's here now, all over the world, hip hop music.
Right.
Richard Pryor said himself in Convictions. Love Richard. He said himself in Convictions. He said, hey, one of his biggest mistakes was when he started Indigo Films. That Jim Brown, who was in charge of his film company, they turned down Purple Rain. Prince sent it to him first. Because he said,
because he thought it would work.
Yeah, he was like, what the fuck is this? And when Prince first started, he went on tour with Rolling Stones. They all booed the shit out of him. And when he was on tour with Rolling Stones, people thought it depressed him. He was ready to quit because they was throwing beer glasses and shit at Prince. Like, what the fuck is this? Because he's on stage with goddamn coat and panties and shit. So evolution is when somebody can come in and innovate and recreate jumbo. You know what the fuck jumbo is? Jumbo is a little bit of James Brown,
right?
A little bit of Jimi Hendrix, and we got Prince. What is Michael Jackson? A little bit of Jackie Wilson, a little bit of Jackie Brown, a little bit of Fred Astaire. We got Michael Jackson. Where's that jumbo today? Didn't T-Pain just make a video saying all you motherfuckers sound the same?
Yeah.
So that's what you got, young rappers, young comics, they all sound like Kevin Hart.
So Marlon,
they do that. That's what they do. It's just
Marlon,
so annoying.
You said you don't have an issue with Instagram comics.
I don't.
And so my question is, how do you feel about, because this is something that we often talked about here, other guests want to talk about when they consider themselves stand-up comics. They talk about the Instagram comics that sell out studios, theaters, shows, etc., and then don't deliver. How do you feel about those types of things? Do you still stick with that? It don't matter because it don't affect me, or do you like on the business end? Right, on the business end, are you like, no, like this is a problem because fill in the blank reason?
First of all, I think that is a great fucking question because it's a question that it was relevant when I started and it's relevant now, and it was a question that was being thrown out there when I started. One of the beauties of working in a comedy club, Patrice O'Neal worked in one too. You got a lot of like comics who started in comedy clubs. The beauty of working in comedy clubs, you get to see the jumbo get created that a lot of stand-up comics don't get to see. Here's some rules. I've just been dropping jewels with y'all all night. We're gonna keep dropping them. Fuck it. Check this out. I one time watched the owner of the club sit down and look at tapes and go, okay, I got bills to pay. I need to make money. So he's looking at the videotapes. He go, okay. AJ Sanders just sent me this. AJ Sanders was Gina on Different World. Different World was a very popular show with Jada Pinkett and Tupac, all that, and Kareem, Dwayne Wayne, all that shit in the 90s. He's like, okay. She's good, but I need somebody who can knock it out the water. So his perception was she was not that comic who could knock it out the water, but she could sell chicken, liquor, and put asses in seats. So what did he do to balance that show off? Here's this young kid who just sent me a video. Man, okay, he's from Indiana, named Mike Epps. Let me throw him in here. Oh my gosh, he's funny, but no one knows him, so he doesn't sell tickets. I'm gonna put him on the show with AJ Sanders, and this way nobody is upset at the show. That's no different than now. The only reason them Instagram comments are getting booked is because this is a business. This is about putting asses in seats and selling chicken and liquor.
Facts.
And until you can put asses in a seat and sell chicken and liquor, you have to shut the fuck up. This is not just a funny business. It's called show business. It's called business. And the business of show is that you have to have people fucking follow you. And the way people follow you, you can't have them follow you on Twitter, Instagram, and shit like that, because those are not real fans. Real fans buy tickets. They go get babysitters. They go and get their hair done. They go and buy outfits, and then they can't wait to see you again. Not your 3,000 Twitter followers who don't even comment on your posts.
No doubt.
That's the difference between the air fryer and the iron skillet. Because when you went out and did the work, them people actually followed your career.
So you still do you think I'm asking, interjecting just a little bit. Do you think it's still important to travel with comedy instead of just sitting back and being like, oh, like you could do it from anywhere in the world because you got the video? Like you hear a lot of people saying that now.
You asking a guy who moved from Detroit.
Right. You gotta move around. I got you.
And now I didn't do as much moving that I did in my early stages of New York. Early stages of New York, you couldn't keep me in the house because I came here with one agenda, but I also didn't have children. Once the kids came, I obviously didn't travel as much and just stayed within the Northeast area, meaning anything, within the Northeast, DC, that way is Connecticut, this way, this and that.
Right.
I had not been to Chicago since Jokes and Notes was open. I went to Chicago. I had been to Germany, Amsterdam, Alaska twice, Europe, all the islands I performed on. I was never going to get those opportunities if I stayed in Detroit. Right. And I knew staying in Detroit, I was going to have to get in line. Getting in line mean in Detroit, you have Foolish, Mike Bonner, Coco. They're on radio. So when you're on radio, then whenever the big acts come to town, you get to open up those shows at the Fox Theater. That's the main right there. What ends up happening is that ends up being kind of, and I'm not shitting on none of my friends in Detroit, because Howie Bell don't stay in Detroit. He gets out everywhere. But what ends up happening if you stay in that circle like that, what ends up happening is that your whole agenda is to play the Fox Theater. Like if you played the Fox Theater, you felt like you made it because this is a place that everybody comes to town to play. So New York got that vibe too. Like Caroline's is on Broadway. So you got a lot of comics who feel like if they done Caroline's, they made it. So you have to create what's making it for you. I played all them joints and that still don't make me feel fucking good, right?
Right.
A bunch of followers that don't make me feel good. You see how I talk. I can get on Instagram and talk like this every day, all day, and would love it. But that's not who the fuck I am, right?
Right.
Man, is I have serious fucking issues. I don't like my therapist. I love performing in front of people and getting my issues off my chest because I truly love stand-up. So fuck everything else. I truly love it. So when you truly love it, bro, that's when you fucking made it. And then you allow all the chips to fall where they're supposed to fall.
So I'm gonna be honest though. I literally just put Terrance don't even know this yet. I quit my job before the pandemic, and then pandemic came. I couldn't move, so I had to go back to work. Today was my last day again. Like I literally just had to let them know, like, oh no, I gotta move, bro. Like I don't even think I'm gonna be here in September. Like I'm going
now, Eddie.
I live in Baltimore, but I'm from DC, so I run a lot of stuff in DC. I put on a lot of shows in DC, and then I travel as a comic elsewhere.
So it's important. Are you familiar with the rapper Scarface from Ghetto Boys?
Yep.
He did an interview on Breakfast Club yesterday because he and Willie D just started something called
the podcast
Reloaded. It's a podcast.
Yep.
And I thought they said some interesting things that they were talking about Houston rappers. And then they started talking about all the different things in Houston that the rappers only talk about, whereas in New York, they spread their wings a little bit. LA spread their wings a little bit. They don't keep it local. I think comics make that mistake too. So even if you travel and you start to bomb on the road, it's because you're going to be talking about Baltimore things that people in the audience don't identify to. So it's always important that when you're writing to make sure that you're not alienating your audience. And I think that's a great segue for you and I to talk about mainstream and
black rooms.
Yeah, because I know that you talked on that earlier, and I think that's a good subject. Now, only if you want to. I don't want to control y'all fucking.
That's actually something that we bring up often because it's always it's one of those things that just to give you a quick background, Eddie is an individual that gets labeled as a mainstream comic.
Okay,
and it rubs him the wrong way.
Oh,
and there we go. Yeah, so it pisses him off. I actually am a bit opposite in that when I started, I guess, in the mainstream scene, if you will. Most of my coming up, though, has been in the urban scene. That's where most of my stage time throughout the 8 years now of doing this is gone. And so there's all different discussions, connotations, thoughts, and everything that happens when you think mainstream versus urban room. What does Marlon Randolph think about urban comedy, mainstream comedy, or the connotations, all of that?
Now, do you want to have an authentic conversation about this, or you want to be correct?
So
please
let me answer this very quick.
Please don't.
I want to have as authentic as possible, but we have another interview that starts at 8. Is the only reason that we have to keep it semi-brief. But please keep it as authentic.
Another interview that starts at 8.
In 15 minutes.
No, he's in Omaha.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Time difference. Yep, my bad. So in 15 minutes, we have another interview.
We good. I'll tell her that
that's not what your email said. Want me to read it to you? Your email didn't say that. Your email said, we'd like to keep it in an hour, but if it's going good, then we just
keep it going, baby. That's what I said. I'll push it back.
Yep, that's fine. That's my bad.
Said clearly we ain't going
staff
good.
Meeting. That's a staff meeting. That's a my bad. Staff meeting. Terrance messed up.
Yo, come on. So, no, but yeah, let's see.
But no, please.
I want to hear your thoughts. We asked everybody this, especially
we are here.
Okay.
You keep it 100.
All right. So this is good. Okay. So you have to do what makes you comfortable in this business. Everybody, Dave Chappelle made a comment one time, then Flip Wilson made a comment one time, Chris Rock made a comment one time, Bill Cosby made a comment one time. And they say you have to keep it 100%. Dave Chappelle said, I perform in front of white people because I wanted to be a millionaire. If I just did black people, I'd be a thousandaire. And I'm paraphrasing it. So you have to act. I remember one time Muhammad Ali's daughter said, you know what? I don't talk about race on my social media because I don't want to alienate people. So Kevin Hart stays away. He said himself, he stays away from social issues. He doesn't talk about them on stage, and he wasn't addressing them. And he took a little heat for it. When every time you looked up and you saw a YouTube video of somebody getting killed, a lot of comics were looking for him to address things. And he was like, he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to alienate his audience. And so personally, you're going to have to make a choice for that. Me specifically, I started in that world when I was in Detroit. Then when I moved to New York, I continued in that world, and I didn't like that world. When I say that world, I'm talking it was all mainstream. My audience, it will be completely white, and you may see one little weird, odd-looking black couple in the audience. And that was in Michigan, playing at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, at Joey's in Livonia, Michigan, all the way to when I started playing High Comedy Club in New York and doing mainstream New York Comedy Club. Even all the clubs in New York, they still got nigger nights. So you got to remember that the segregation started with them. And that's why there is a urban market. And I think once you educate yourself about where this urban market come from, it wasn't created by black comics. It was created through the Chitlin circuit because of segregation. Tulsa, Oklahoma was built because of segregation, because of Jim Crow laws. It forced people to work amongst each other because no one else wanted to work with them. So when you have the context like that, you're not embarrassed about playing urban rooms. You're not having conversations about urban versus mainstream. Urban didn't choose to be there. It's like interviewing, Chris Rock said it best. That's like interviewing Tink Turner about Ike Turner beating her ass. Why are you interviewing Tina about Ike Turner beating her? No one ever asked a white comic about why you guys segregated to the point that black people have to create a market where they perform at Applebee's and McDonald's. But we only ask black comics about this world that they were forced upon to work in. I think I'm gonna leave it right there because if I go deeper, then it starts to sound.
No, I mean, you're speaking to my soul, baby. Like, keep it going. Because and I'll be honest, I have this conversation way too much. Where I'm like, bro, I promote shows. So, I don't know if they tell you, if Rashawn gave you my background. All right. No. So I'm one of the founders of the DC Comedy Festival. So I put on the DC Comedy Festival, biggest festival in DC right now, biggest independent festival in DC. I also run 3 of the biggest shows in DC right now. right? So like we've been on a run, right? All right. I put on shows in DC, Baltimore, New York, and we're trying to work on Omaha, we're trying to work on Vegas, PA, Tennessee. We're moving, right?
Okay.
What comes up is we'll get comics, or I'll get comics that'll come at me and be like, "Oh, you're a mainstream comic," and I'm like, "I'm black. I don't cater to white people. I talk the same motherfucking way I'm talking now on that stage all the time. You know what I'm saying? I do a show in a tunnel that's basically a charity where the audience is very, very mixed, and I talk exactly the same. I don't change at all.
Well,
right?
Well, it's not about you changing. It's it's about if you're relatable.
And that's my point. So I'm funny to them, and I'm funny in black rooms. So what happens is we get comics, especially urban comics around here. I don't know if this is true everywhere. That'll basically demonize black comics that do mainstream. And then what they'll say is, "Oh, I can do mainstream, but I'm an urban comic." I'm like, "No, you're a comic, bro.
Okay,
you're just in front of an audience."
Let's pause right there. So once again, what you're doing is you're bringing in other people's opinions into your work. So let me entertain that for 1 second. Let me entertain that for 1 second, because as you talk, you do a lot of referencing of other comics, which is very dangerous for you, Eddie. And you're going to see why that is as you get into the business. But that's why you're at 10 years, right? Because even though that you have all this time under you, you still are controlled by what others think and feel, or you wouldn't give them mention. They don't deserve to be mentioned, right? If somebody say to you, "Hey," some girls say to you, "Hey, you want this pussy." You're like, "What? Huh?" And you keep going. Or you're going to sit there and go back and forth about what the fuck she's saying. That's what you do when it comes to comics, right? And this whole 50 minutes you've been doing that. So let me just say this to you. The black guy who dates the white girl, and then he goes, "I don't like black women because they are loud, they're obnoxious, they're ratchet, they talk too much shit." He doesn't really love that white woman. He really hates himself, and he feels the need to justify why he dates her. If you loved her, you would never need to shoot down black women. That might just be your preference. I don't need to owe nobody an explanation why I like the Big Mac versus the Whopper. That's your preference. You don't need to sit up and tell nobody, "Hey, I don't change my material, this is not." If you're relatable, if you're talking family shit, guess what? White people are human beings. They got family. That's family shit. Do your thing. If you're talking about your job and how you hate your job, and they can identify to it, it works. Do your thing. That's where the money at. Go for it. That's where the money at. But for some people, they can't do it. For some people, they don't feel like they have the education. They don't feel like they can articulate themselves. They are threatened by the audience. Therefore, they're going to look at you and judge you and label you because it makes them feel good. They're the white person. They're the black guy who don't love themselves that's justifying dating the white girl. Don't let them have that power over you because of their own insecurities. That makes sense?
Yeah, it do. I need to grow up. Let me shut that down real quick. Yeah, it do. I need to grow up. We just talked about this yesterday. Listen, I'm scorched earth with motherfuckers. When you offend me or get me in my feelings, I'll be like, who are you talking to, man? Like, who are you talking to?
So the flip side of that is I left. I was doing 3 shows a night at Hot Comedy Club. It was nothing but tourists. They had 2 comedy rooms in a building on 46th and 9th Street in Manhattan. It's called Restaurant Row. It's a popping row with nothing but restaurants, right? B. Smith had a restaurant there. And there was nothing but tourists there because what they would do is have young comics go out in Times Square and bark. The term bark means that I would initial a ticket. They would give me 50 tickets. I initial all 50 tickets, and I would give them to people. Whichever them people came in, I got $5 per ticket and 5 minutes of stage time per ticket. So it was an incentive, and they made me go on the street and work for it, right? Once they saw that I was a great MC, I didn't have to bark anymore. They made me an in-house, $20 a show. I worked 6 nights a week, Thursdays off, right? Except on the weekends, it was more. It was 30 a show, right? So it felt like a job. Then Talent, his name is James Harris, Talent the comedian.
Oh yeah, we had him on.
He was on a radio show here in New York, and you know, he's one of those guys that embraces people who just start. He brings them in, and then once he feels that you're ready to find your own, he brings in the new camp. And he's notoriously has done that throughout his career. So I was in a camp. It was me, Harris Stanton, Kenny Williams, and his camp that was just leaving him was the Rudy Rush, the Will Sylvans. They were leaving out that camp. You know, they were in that camp. They were leaving out, and here we were the new batch coming in under Talent. Well, Talent had because he's on radio, he had a lot of clubs and shows, so he had started making me his host for the New Jack Comics, and that's how he and I started to rock a lot. And I learned a lot from him by being the host for the New Jack Comics. But what he also did, indirectly, unbeknownst to him, is that he introduced me to the New York urban world that I had not been tapped into yet, because I was working nothing but mainstream. And when I was able to go on stage and talk about Frank's hot sauce and motherfucking Lori's seasoning sauce, and talk about how many sugars in a Kool-Aid, and talk about fucking Martin Lawrence and Living Single in New York Undercover, instead of talking about Seinfeld and talking about Frasier on Thursday nights. Because see, the country was divided like that. I like that I didn't have to watch how I talked, what I was saying, and I was able to be myself and be accepted so much that I never went back to mainstream. Because it's about, at the end of the day, it's about me. So if I'm comfortable and I felt good, okay, I might not be a millionaire from it or whatever, but God damn it, I love performing in front of us. I love my tongue to be us. I like looking at us. And if that's my preference, then who am I to fucking justify it to anybody? Everybody got their own preference. Now, if you put me in front of a bunch of white people, I will have to say, okay, I can't do that. Because when you're in the jungle, you must learn when to wear your stripes. You can't force yourself, and see, you can't force yourself in situations and not know how to survive in the jungle. You watch a lot of goddamn planet shows, and they'll show you all the birds, bugs, and all the different little species that the only way they survive is because they know how to change colors and look like that leaf on that tree, because they'll get eaten alive. So as a comic, you got to know that too. If you don't even know a mainstream and you come into an urban room, the people need to be able to identify to you. Coming up in the game, one of the first things they taught you was you got 30 seconds for the people to like you. 30 seconds. If they don't like you, then your first joke ain't going nowhere. You're probably going to be booed before your third joke. And with you knowing that you had 30 seconds, you knew that you had to get to your shit quick. Now, they say like that when you do mainstream. Mainstream, they appreciate the writing. They appreciate the premise, the setup. There's a lot of applaud breaks. A lot of black comics don't even know the terminology of that. They don't know in mainstream room the terminology of you're too blue. That means that you're too nasty and you're talking your vocal therapy. The term is blue. They don't understand applaud breaks. Applaud breaks are equally just as good as you being funny. But in an urban room, applaud breaks is a silence, it's fear, it's scary. I need to do something to get them to make some noise because they're way too silent. But an applaud break, my nigga, in a mainstream room, that'll get you a TV show. Because applaud break, Marine, that was fucking brilliant what you just said.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna bring in what Chris Rock said. I brought up all the people that quoted, and I'm gonna bring it around the world and bring to what Chris Rock said. He said, "Black rooms teach you how to be funny. White rooms teach you how to write."
Right.
So do both, goddamn it. If you want to be good, if you want to be great, do fucking both, and don't look at one better than the other, and don't versus one versus the other.
Thank you. See, I love how you broke that down. I really do. I love how you broke that down, because that's the best way to say it, right? Do both, and don't give a fuck on which one is better or not, bro. Like
he's such a goddamn orator. He's over here. He had to wipe his brow a bit, Marlon.
Great. I got the ring light on, and I turned my air down earlier, and I should have turned it. Knowing I was gonna be sitting here this long, I should have turned my air up. But y'all cool, man.
That was a transfer of energy, but that's some gems right there, because we often talk about it and we frame it in that exact same deal, in that you go to black rooms to learn how to be funny, you go to white rooms to learn how to write. But we always talk about here, and we've gotten a little bit of pushback from some comics, but we always say you've got to do it all if you want to be a comic. At least if that's what you choose to do. If you want to do stand-up comedy that way, you've got to be able to do it all. When you don't do one because you think, this or this, and you could, whatever connotations might come with it, you have only ruined your career and your health.
Those guys are what they're going to do. That goes back to those guys are the guys who date the white girl and shit on black women instead of just dating the white girl and saying, I don't owe you no explanation.
White girls.
I love her, and I don't owe you a goddamn thing. Or they're going to be the insecure person that goes, I date her because I hate them. That's what those type of comics are doing. Those type of comics, they, like I said, they can't articulate themselves. They don't know how to be in a jungle and change stripes. They don't know how to go in front of those people. So they go in front of those people and talk about red or talk about Frank's hot sauce when half that room culturally. See, because white people, let me tell you, this is the thing with white people. And I hate even talking about them that much, to be honest. I learned that from
white people.
This is the thing. They're able to go into a room and you're never going to hear them talk about anything concerning a white race because it doesn't exist. You're going to hear them talk about culture. You don't hear Irish talk about Irish culture, Italians talk about Italian culture, Jewish talk about Jewish culture, Greeks talk about Greek culture, and the list goes on and on and on. And they all look down on white trash, or they call them trailer trash. They look down on them. But we don't have But we don't have that luxury, black folks. We're all the same jumbo pot as black. Whether you Haitian, Jamaican, Ugandan, Nigerian, like my man fake Terrance, I can tell right now you've been around nothing but black people. See, to me, you ain't nothing but you're like A.G. White, that's my dude. You're like the Mighty Snow Cone from Detroit. You're like Gary. We have white dudes in the urban game who, if you told them that they were white, they would go get the fuck out of here. You probably fake Terrance, you probably go past mirrors and go, who the fuck is that? Because you really because you've been around black people for so long. So you don't, the culture don't need to be explained to you. You don't disrespect the culture, and that's who Eminem was.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's unfair to you to have to go in mainstream and then have somebody else say that you're a sellout. But the one thing about white comics who do well in urban rooms, I've watched a lot of them excel and do well, and I watch a lot of them not pull back and bring up the guys they know that do not have the same opportunities that they may have gotten.
Well, that's fact.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I've seen that thousands and thousands and over. But for instance, I'll just say talent, and then I won't mention no more names. I've watched when I'm there with talent, some of the white comics who are major stars now, they always getting their stage time from him. They wasn't getting stage time from any of these other clubs. You mean to tell me on their TV shows and movie shows, whatever, he can't at least be the fucking mechanic in the show? Can't he at least be the bus driver? I would love to see what all these guys that he's, that's been under his belt that has made it in Hollywood. I would love to see them at least give him that opportunity. Now, do I know if they did and maybe he didn't want it or jacked it up? I don't know the ins and outs of that. So I would be
right.
But I do know that I've been around long enough to see that a lot of guys do excel as far as like surpass. Will I say it's because they're white? I won't say it's totally because they're white, but we can be honest and say that Boys the Men was a huge success until New Kids on the Block came out, and then the other group. It was New Kids on the Block, and there was a little NSYNC. When those guys came out, Boys the Men started to play bars because for them, it's not enough black people in the country. So if you have all these white girls have a poster of Boys the Men, now I have a poster of NSYNC. Boys the Men gotta come down because these guys look more like what. It doesn't mean I'm racist. They just look more like me.
No, you're basically saying what we were kind of talking about yesterday, and in a different relational and analogy to like totem poles in society and the hierarchies. And that's how certain things are stacked. White women get their way in this country. Period. Point blank. Yeah. I mean, that's anybody that wants to say that that's not the case, they're lying to themselves. That's period. They marketed it to white women. They put that in on the pop music, and it was what it was. It drowns out.
Right.
It's frustrating when you
white men are still first, though. White men are still first.
Yeah. All that.
White women were able to excel and get the opportunities right after. See, civil rights opened that door for the whole women's right movement and all that. Right? It opened that door because what it gave the guys in power opportunity to say is, I can kill two birds with one stone.
One stone.
Not only I can have a woman, but then I can have especially a black woman, because still black women are getting way more of the opportunities than some of the black men were getting. So the scale from what you're saying from with white women is still, it's
for sure.
Even with the movement, the vagina pussy movement, they totally took that from the young girl who was under Farrakhan that created that. And once they found out that she was part of it, then all of a sudden they just dismantled it and didn't stay focused on why it was created in the first place. Because of when at that time, President Trump, when he got in office, it made a lot of women upset, and this movement started. But then all of a sudden, they were able to deflect it and make it about Farrakhan. It had nothing to do with Farrakhan.
Yeah. Right.
And it was white women who did that. It was white women who 53% of them voted for Hillary Clinton not to get in the White House. She clearly had the best resume. She clearly, hands down, you can't say that her resume, pound for pound, was not better than Donald Trump.
Better.
So, and she still didn't get the job. So she still didn't get the job because of who? Because of white women. There is no way that every woman should not have been on board with getting this fucking woman in the White House. But they were stuck on all the shit her husband did, which had nothing to do with her. And that's the double standard, right? That's the bullshit, right? Yep. But anyway, we getting off subject. I hope I wasn't too serious with y'all.
No, that's where we.
No, we hit this stuff. We talk about this stuff all the time. We just right at this point is like, so we do numbers on our audio, and so a lot of times what happen is people start talking about stuff that we've already addressed, and then we hit it too many times, so we shut the fuck up and let our guests talk about it. Because if it's like you already heard our opinions on this shit, and then you don't want to get you want take integrity, right? Like you want that podcast integrity where it's like I don't want, my mind has changed on it a little bit, but it hasn't changed all the way, so I don't want to address it again until I have a clear thought on it. But I think, like I said, we were just talking about white women yesterday, about white women.
It was in relation to the Victoria's Secret Karen that had just
Victoria's Secret Karen
from the girl that said she was getting chased the whole time from the camera.
Yeah, and that shit was fucking beautiful.
But see, this is amazing. Right? This is why I don't like. But this is why I don't like to focus too much on white folks. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I feel like within our community, if I sat down pound for pound and looked at all the bad things happened in my life, it ain't come from the white people. It came from black people. Pound for pound. If I talked about all the opportunities I started a comedy club called Brooklyn House of Comedy. It was a lot of black comics who were alienating themselves from that club just because I started it. Wasn't no white comics. I didn't expect them to come. We can't get our own way to build a Tulsa, Oklahoma anymore because we too busy stuck on who's doing what, and then want to sit around and bitch about white people and what they doing. You can talk about, we can talk about a video of an unarmed person getting killed, and yes, now everybody's upset. But when it's done, you're not upset anymore. You have to continuously be upset because all of it is about the laws in the country and people not being held to accountability, and they're still not being held to accountability.
Right.
So you can't. That was somebody calling and it threw off my screen. I thought y'all hung up on me. What? No,
you go. We was listening. You was still running through.
Yeah. So no, somebody called and it threw my screen off. So you have to be. You can't celebrate. When George Floyd got off, I was walking through downtown Brooklyn. I saw people clapping and stuff like that. And I was on the phone with somebody. And I said, I don't know why the fuck they clapping or they happy like that. And they was like, no, you don't understand. You should be happy. This and that. I was like, no.
Oh, when Derek Chauvin got convicted.
When he got convicted, I said, no. I said, I've seen this movie a million times. See,
right.
It starts with Trayvon Martin. Then you got Freddie Gray. Then you got Michael Brown. Then you got the young lady in Texas, and it goes on and on and on, right? Where we watch over and over of big companies come in, unions come in, and what they do, they paint this picture that the Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group and that black people really don't care. They've done a good job saying that the reason why shit is the way it is because it's our fault. And then they end up with no accountability, right? Just like how you're asking black comics about urban rooms. I've never seen any press conference of police officers of any sort addressing any accountability. You just see them saying everybody go home and we're going to let due process deal with itself. But they
will let justice prevail.
The whole little same speech, right? We should be celebrating when you start seeing laws get passed that's saying you're going to lose your pension, you're going to lose your job. Then what's going to happen? Chris Rock said it best. Let's give it to Chris Rock again. If bullets and it's about money, motherfuckers don't waste them bullets. Remember what he said in Bring the Pain? But that wasn't about police brutality. He was talking about mass killings. He was like, if you can't go in Walmart and Kmart and buy a bullet or just waste bullets. If those bullets was expensive, you'd be like, man, I'm not about to waste this $2,000 on your ass.
Right. Yeah. I remember that one.
So it's all on purpose. So when a guy like me see it's on purpose, and then you date a girl, you out here dating and you fucking around with all these girls, and then you got all these baby mamas, and then you see these women continuously putting men in court, and they saying, well, it ain't my problem. He need to pay child. He need to do this. He need to do that. Now you just handing dudes over to the system because it's a goddamn, it ain't nothing but a machine now.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to talk about what somebody's doing when you're constantly seeing these young brothers, man, passports taken away, driver's license taken away. Now they can't work. Now they shut down. The kid ain't getting the money. The kid gonna grow up and go to jail any goddamn. And the system know that. They waiting on it. You saw how they treated when that little gorilla and that little boy. Remember the San Francisco zoo? That little boy fell in there with that gorilla. Man was crying all over the place when they shot that gorilla. You don't remember when Cecil the lion got killed over that damn steak? When the dentist went over to Africa and killed Cecil the lion? Man, you got white people all subways, they was all over the place just crying. Oh, Cecil the lion. But when that little boy fell in with that gorilla, you know what they said? What Fox News and the rest of CNN, you know what they did? They said he was going to be like his daddy anyway. His daddy got a record. He's a criminal. So this little repeated thing that you see in years, you turn on the news. I just watched a story the other day, then I'm going to shut the fuck up. Because my therapist told me stop talking about social shit. I was watching the news the other day. I saw it was 2 stories they showed. Just why I watch the news no more because it's all designed to just paint us as criminals. So the story of these Brownsville boys that were shooting, 16 years old, and then a officer had a press conference. He said, "Where's all the groups now? Where's the parents of these kids? Everybody's always concerned, but there's nobody. It's silence now. But these kids are out here doing it. 16, unbelievable. I mean, he was just over the top dramatic with the shit, right?
Right.
And the next 2 news stories was about 2 kids locked in their car over 100-degree weather in Arizona. And you know how that was covered? The good old cop that broke the window and saved the baby out the car. Right. Right. Not one word about the goddamn mother or the father.
Yeah, where the fuck she was at? Yeah.
In the car.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. No incident was more blatant on that than that. Damn it, I can't think of his name. That Brock kid, the swimmer from Stanford. I think Brock Snyder, but I can't remember that's his name.
No, Brock Snyder is a comedian in DC.
I know.
Jesus Christ. You ought to put the boy
You talking about the rapist?
Brock Turner, sorry.
You talking about the rapist?
The rapist out of Stanford at that point. When they published his photo, just his photo,
they used like a high school.
It was his senior pic or something like that, very prominent in a suit, everything. And you're like, this dude was caught brutally raping somebody by a dumpster. And you post about his swimming career. You talk about his prestigious scholarship at Stanford, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're doing all this as well as the picture. But you get a young black man pulled over for a taillight that was out, had a suspended license, and the photo that gets attached next to that story or anything else is him in handcuffs, maybe crying, something along that, to just continue in the most subtle but not subtle ways of perpetuating the negative. And you do nobody any favor.
So fake Terrance. Hold on, Eddie. So fake Terrance, you're saying what I'm saying, which is, and thank God for you breaking that down so eloquently. You're saying what I'm saying, which is because in black homes and black communities and black neighborhoods, because we refuse to have that broad conversation about how it's way bigger than what we see. It's on the news all day, every day. that you would think we would be tighter as a unit, and we are not.
But I do think that some of that is perpetuated by media and social media.
But we are not tight as a unit?
Correct.
No. Well, that is true. You do
from I guess what I would consider an outsider's perspective, right? I tend to look at things through the lens of, often we say, oh, the world is going to shit. That's what you hear a lot when you see these videos that are circulating about fill in the blank tragedy that happens. Well, that's not necessarily true, because the world has always been like this. We've just multiplied our people and we've given them all a camera to do these things. And
no, you're right.
We unfortunately, though, we tend to, as a society, not be able to stick to the nuance. We don't agree that all these different things can be simultaneously true to a degree, but it's in weird ways they try to just blanket it. It's either it is or it isn't. And that's that. And that's weird.
I think listen, you're right. I think you have the small scale and then you have the large scale. The small scale meaning within conversations or rooms of comedians and friends and family. I have the large of people who support me. So I would never say Black people don't support each other. So you hear people say that, right? Because that goes back to what you're saying. We regurgitate and repeat these negative stereotypes to each other. That's created from the news or from higher powers. That part, I think, is the small scale that I do not participate in. The large scale is, the reality is, when Asians were getting attacked and a bill went out for Asians to stop being attacked, Black people really should be on the street every day and upset about that bill being passed and how they're being ignored. And the reality is they are not.
I get what you're saying.
Right.
So for me, the large scale is always what's coming out of DC. That's legislation, and how we got to see there's a bigger picture that's hurting us. If me and my girl have a baby, she don't like me, she think of this and that. You send me to jail. Trust me when I tell you, you do child support on me and get me locked up, and I can't support you. 9 times out of 10, our child is next to go to jail, and they don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about me, and they don't give a fuck about our kid. But you are handing them over. You are handing the family over to them. For what reason? Because you can't support the child. We got to work this out, but we can't involve the government. You can't involve the government when it comes to housing. You can't involve the government when it comes to EBT. You can't involve the government when it comes to child support. The government is not on your side, bro.
I've said that, Marlon. I've said that so many times. I don't understand that about people sometimes, when you can acknowledge that our government is corrupt, but you're asking for more government. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, because people aren't asking for more government; they're asking for better government, and that's. I do understand your points, but they're asking for better government. You know what I'm saying? But like, this is told on something, right? Like,
that is
fair point. Very fair point.
Good job, Eddie.
I hate having to agree with Eddie too, because just look at him. He just got a big dumb face. I hate it. But
yeah, okay. You wish
he had a great point. It was a fair point.
Boy, this is pretty. I'm pretty.
Fair point.
Listen, the point that I was making was. The thing I was going to say was Orlando Bloom used to do a show called American Gods. I don't know if you guys ever seen this. I brought up this quote before in partials, but in American Gods, he basically got kicked off because they said that his voice was not his actual voice, but like his character was just too harsh. And this show, nobody watches this show anymore. I haven't heard anybody talk about American Gods since he got kicked off. They're in season 3. It was one of my favorite shows on TV. Haven't watched it since.
You don't have stars. Well, go ahead.
A lot of people don't give a fuck about stars no more. Like, Power just came back on, so I did just rebuy it. Don't play me. But no. So in the show, Orlando Bloom's character says, did I say Orlando Bloom? Orlando Jones, right? Is it?
Yeah,
is it Orlando Jones?
I was over here like Orlando Bloom.
I knew what you meant. I knew what you meant because I remember.
I did too, but I was the whole time it was funnier picturing Orlando Bloom, like dude from the Pirates of the Caribbean. So, yeah, I was like, it was a lot funnier in my head that way. So no, it was Orlando Bloom for sure.
No. But he said Black people will always be treated as inherently evil, and white people will always be treated as inherently good. Right? Basically, meaning every time a Black person does something that ends up wrong, everybody's like, that's in his nature. Of course it was like that. And then every time a white person does something wrong or they mess up, it's like, oh, he made a mistake. We'll always get that shit.
But we're not.
But,
We're not.
Eddie, hold on, wait, Terrance, hold on.
I'm not
Eddie,
saying it as an excuse. I'm not saying it as an excuse.
So let me say this. Remember earlier I was saying how people look at things on a smaller scale and then how people look at things from a larger scale? You ever saw a show called Vikings?
Yeah.
You remember in Vikings how you had the different groups, even in Game of Thrones, you had the different groups who fought all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The very first 13 seconds of the movie Black Panther was what? It starts out, the first 13 seconds of it starts out saying that there were different villages who fought, had war, rape, and then until 7 groups decided to come together and decide on one king, except one group that went to the mountains. Human beings are always going to conquer other groups for resource, land, and survival. Black people can't sit up and keep bitching and complaining about not being accepted. You want to survive, you got to fight to survive. And you can't fight to survive if you're constantly wanting to be accepted. That's not the real world.
But this is my thing. In my travels, I haven't really seen a lot of people who want acceptance from us. Pause. I said I was making this joke about this.
Not acceptance from us. We want to be accepted. We want to see.
That's my point. That's my point. I don't like when you ever meet that person that they try to make you like them instead of just being, you know what I'm saying, themselves and naturally like them. If they try to make you like them, you always like, yo, get the fuck away from me, bro. Like, I don't want, you get what I'm saying? It's all those little corny ass black dudes that always want to be accepted. Like, I don't think they get anything done. It's the motherfuckers who do things by their beat of their own drum that always get shit done. That's my opinion.
All I'm saying, and I'm saying this back to Terrance, is all I'm saying is this. When you know that your existence and your survival is going to come from people who want to see you live and care about your kids, you are working with them. You're not seeing that across the board. I can take you to Camden, Newark, certain places of Philly, Detroit, and all you have is way too many young boys who are listening to rappers talk about black men killing black men and not seeing nothing wrong with it. That is.
But you don't.
Go ahead.
You don't think that, like, if more dudes like to my knowledge, you don't think if more people just went to the beat of their own drum of like, yo, like, I don't care about what y'all think. I don't care about what other people. I'm like, look, I think this empowers our community, and they just do it. You don't think that would be better? Wouldn't make us better off?
No, that's not how society works. That works. That's how individuals work. A community and a society works by working together. A community works when they control their church, they control their school, their kids are protected, they know who's patrolling their neighborhood. That's not individualism. It's individualism that keeps that community from not being a community. You can't operate like that.
But you don't. So my thought is like, I think everybody's trying to. Oh, did I freeze?
No.
Did I freeze?
Good.
All right.
No.
All right. So what I was gonna say is, it's not. I think the problem with that is that everybody's trying to do everything, and instead of just being good at what they're good at. I agree with you that the community works, right? But if you good at policing, the motherfucker police, be great at policing. March to your own drum of policing. Yo, and then we'll all see like he's good at policing. We get him to do that. You good at community organization. Boom.
I don't mean to interrupt. Hold on. I don't mean to interrupt you, and I apologize. You're not looking at the larger scale of it. The reason why I don't want you policing my kids is because I don't want you around my kids with a gun. I'm going to come in your neighborhood and police you, but you're not going to police my neighborhood. You don't see other children being hurt by other colored officers for a reason. They're making sure that you're not policing their children. So if you're thinking kumbaya, my lord, in a Viking society, you're going to always lose. This shit is about survival. And I'm not saying pick up a gun and be violent. I'm not that kind of person, but I'm about education and information. Meaning such, instead of young boys being on individualism shit, Why not young boys put the weed down so excuses are not created against them that they can't get certified and licensed to be officers and be officers and police their own neighborhoods. That's how a community and society works. But as long as you're smoking that weed at 12, 13 years old, then what's going to happen is you're going to lose your chances of working for the state and the government. And that's all by design as well, because we're saying that it's legal on one hand, but we still got motherfuckers locked up saying it's illegal on the other hand. I wonder why.
I mean, it's no coincidence that legitimately this nation was built on the backs of slaves, as well as every other nation in society that has ever fair
it was built on Indians. They didn't bring in the first
Native American.
They didn't bring in no Africans to after they killed all the Indians.
Right.
Yep.
But it's a fair point to say that most societies throughout history have been built on the backs of slaves, etc. Right? We're moving into that. That doesn't mean that you don't continue to strive and press forward past that. But when you look at that and you look at the system in which you're talking about, that kind of aligns a lot with the slavery if you kind of mesh up the two, because everything, as soon as slavery was abolished, it kind of moved into sharecropping. It moved into all the other things of the forced servitude, into, oh, now we're going to write all these additional excessive laws that they're not going to necessarily implicitly say.
Wait a minute, you skipped
black.
some shit. You skipped some
Okay.
shit. Context matters.
Fair
When
enough.
the Civil War started, I mean, when the Civil War ended, the first thing started was Reconstruction.
Correct.
During Reconstruction, we had a lot of black senators, a lot of black congressmen, and a lot of black towns were created. Because of that power, that's when all the resentment of laws, the resentment of the sharecropping. So you have to tell that part first. You can't
Right. So I didn't mean to do that as if I was just brushing over thing. I didn't, because there was a period where black folks were very prosperous within that period of time. That was one of the most successful periods for black farmers that I'm aware of in history. But you look at how that time period evolved, and laws started to come down to then knock down the successful black farmers, to knock down the successful black businesses, even the successful black families. They didn't even have to be business owners, farmers, and have massive income stakes. It could have just been they have a decent job and they're doing well enough. These laws came down to start to further. How do you say that?
What sharecropping was never built for you to. Sharecropping was like giving a person 3 credit cards and having them work those credit cards off, but it's set up where they're never going to be able to pay those credit cards.
The interest rate is higher than the minimum and the maximum every time.
That's right. That's what sharecropping was. So after,
right.
so after the Great Depression, the president of the United States gave everybody an opportunity to get a home, a car, a new refrigerator, a driveway. World War I vets were taken care of. That's how the GI Bill was created. All these different, let's say, stimulus checks were created.
Right.
He said everybody excluding sharecroppers.
Mm-hmm.
So black folks, for the second time, were not able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. The first time was once they were freed. Andrew Jackson came in. It's either Andrew Jackson or Johnson. When he came in after Abraham Lincoln, it's just like the healthcare bill with Obama. He took that whole bill away for 40 acres and a mule and gave reparations. The reparations to the owners of the human beings, who we call the slave owners.
Mm-hmm.
They got reparations. So that was the first time black people were not able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. So a lot of slaves was like, fuck this. I want to stay with my master. I ain't got no home. I ain't got no clothes. This is where I've been getting my food. Why the fuck do I want to be out there free? I don't see how that's going to work. Second time, sharecroppers was when you didn't get that stimulus. Third time, black people didn't really get free until 100 years later. From 1864 to 1964, now we put something in law that says you're equal. But the mistake from that is, and Martin Luther King said it too, we didn't focus on the resources for you to be equal. We've been fighting so much for you to sit at a goddamn lunch counter, but you ain't got the money for the hamburger.
Right.
So the resources is still an issue. So if we knew resources was an issue, then the way we spend would be different. And I think there are higher powers that tell us that we're broke because of our own fault, and they don't want to take no accountability. And we do repeat that dumb shit by saying black people only buy Jordans, black people don't do that. We repeat that dumb shit. But there is a reality of when money is in a black neighborhood, there's no reason that there's an Asian cleaners down the block. There's no reason why there's a Muslim beer liquor store owner across the street. None of the businesses are owned by the people that's in that community. And because they don't own their homes, because of redlining in the 60s, they can't pay for the schools. So because they can't pay for the schools, who control the schools? The government. So they control the teachers that come in there. They control what your kids learn. Because you're paying taxes for, at your job, you're paying the taxes for that hospital and for those cops to be there. You don't control who get hired and fired at that precinct or that hospital. So you have no power. And it's been like that. So if we talk about it from that perspective, then we start to talk about how to get power. And you're not hearing that. I think you're seeing little parts of it from entertainers like T.I. and Killer Mike and these guys, but you're not hearing it enough from a small scale. So you guys, you got a great thing going on, right? You say you started a festival, right, Eddie? So what you should, so I can't tell you what to do, but I could tell you it starts within your own circle. So instead of focusing on all the negativity of these fucking comics who might not know what the fuck they're talking about, what you do is you start to do something like the young lady did here in Brooklyn when she started the Black Women's Comedy Festival. Is instead of wanting people to accept you and wanting people to start something for you and bitching and crying because they never give you anything, you start that shit yourself. And you try to tell the people in your group, don't nobody owe you shit. If you want it, you're going to have to build. If you don't like what I'm doing, what's your idea? If you don't have a solution, then shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that sounds like me already. That's just
pretty much.
They all call me. They think I'm a bully.
I see. Yeah, 131. I took up so much of y'all time. Y'all gotta bring me back.
Hey,
we
man,
definitely got to bring. We got to bring back
take up our
time,
time, man. You was always like, I'm gonna be spending the next 4 minutes picking up some of these gems you dropped, Marlon. All right.
No, yeah, like I pushed the second interview to another date. Like I was just like, we're gonna keep running. Like I was not even joking. Like when Terrance was like, yo, we have 50. I was like, we are at 50 minutes. I was like, yo, are you on? She was like, nah, blah blah. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it.
We're good.
This that splat. Marlon, where can everybody find you at, bro? Like let's make sure we get that out there.
Tell the people where we can find you.
Oh yeah, it would be great. I don't tweet as much. That's some bullshit to me. But
Twitter does suck.
Yeah, it just seemed like with my phone, I've tried. It seemed like I get tweets from yesterday that they'll pop up as a notification, but it was something somebody tweeted. Yeah, I don't get Twitter. I tried to get it, but it just seemed like
it ain't nothing but vitriol and titties. That's about it.
It seems more politically driven.
Yes,
you know what I mean,
it's almost like this talks of this culture war is like somebody's trying to drive it, like everybody's trying to like chill the fuck out and other people are trying to drive it.
Right. So people can find me on Instagram. That's Marlon Randolph. It's one word. You can find me on there. I don't post a lot, but I do post my shows.
Yep.
I do post my shows. And I do have on Facebook, I'm maxed out, unfortunately. I can't get any more friends. And I started a page, but I started noticing what they doing with them algorithms is they mess with your algorithms when you start a page because they want you to get money. They want sponsorship. So I started noticing that I'm not being seen as much. So I went back to my regular personal so I could try to keep numbers. So the show is called
when you go to
every Sunday.
When you go to pages, it sucks.
Yeah. When you go to which page?
Pages. When you go to pages on Facebook, when you do pages, they suck because they want you to boost. They want you to boost everything.
Everything.
It's a money thing for them. So you can find me on Instagram. I am maxed out on Facebook, but I think you can follow me still on Facebook, and I will still pop up on your timeline. So follow me on there. This week we have Tressa Ellaby. Tressa Ellaby was one of the contestants from own network show called Ready for Love. Last week we had Jay Farrell from Saturday Night Live. We did a great interview with him. We've had TK Kirkland. We had Rodney Perry, Capone, Rob Stapleton, Talent. I mean, our list goes on. And our conversations were the jewels that were dropped were incredible because you know, you talking me times 4 guys.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's some Avengers type shit because you know, you put a guy like my partner Kenny Williams, who's 30 years in the game. He had left out the game 30 years. He's from New York. He's a Queens dude, and he's known a lot of these New York guys longer than I did. So you're talking his experience, and he's a sports guy, and I'm a political guy, and so you're talking that mash to whoever the guest that we bring on with their mash. Sometimes, man, them shows, I go back and sometimes watch them shows and go, yo, some of the younger comics really, if they don't need to pay for classes. If they just watched all these videos, like maybe once a week, it will do hell of a wonders for you. The shit.
Oh no, I watch a lot of your videos, man. I've watched a lot of your videos, man. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Nah, y'all guys, I rock with this joint. I do. But like
I'm kind of a dickhead. I'm kind of a dickhead in that I don't follow people that we automatically throw up on here until I fuck with their vibe. And Marlon, I appreciate your gyms and everything, so I give you a follow for whatever this white trash guy follows worth, man. It just is what it is. But I appreciate the shit out of the conversation and the gyms.
Yo, you got anything else coming up this week or nah? You good to go?
No, I got going to be rocking in Jersey. We got a show coming up, and then I have I'm usually performing every weekend, and then I got a club around here that I go. That's my gym. It's called the Bedford Manor. It's right here in Bed-Stuy. My boy Dave Lester, he does that show every Wednesday. So I usually walk around there, and he usually give me the eye. He's giving me that eye, going, "Yo, you're next," or "You're going up." And that's just where I kind of like. That's my therapy session on Wednesday nights. But I usually don't advertise it because you know I don't make money off that show. So I have to be very about that because I don't do this shit for free no more. So the Friday night show, I posted that flyer. That's gonna be in the North Plainfield area, and then I know I have 2 major shows August 14th at a place called Aruga's. It's gonna be 7:30 and 10 o'clock. I put Lawrence Owens on that show and Craig McLaren on that with me. It's a Marlon Randolph in France that we do every 2 months. So those are going to be the first 2 cats because they've done so much for me over the years. So those are the first 2 cats I wanted to showcase. And then I'm going to host it, and we're going to let it do what it do. Last time I played that place, we sold out 4 shows Mother's Day weekend.
Nice, man. Nice, yo. I ain't mad at it. Yo, ladies and gentlemen, Marlon Randolph in the building.
Thank you, Marlon Randolph.
We see y'all later, man. Stay in
touch. That's why I'm mad with it. That's why I'm mad with it. Straight out the trap with it. Whatever you want, whatever you need, it's on tab, get it.